All right. Hello and welcome to the Vinyl Vault. I am Tony Nguyen.
As always, I'm Parker.
And we'd like to welcome you to the latest episode of the Vinyl Vault.
We are back.
We are back after a hiatus.
It was a much needed hiatus.
Yeah, you went out of the
Out of all the 50 states I could have gone to, went to Nebraska.
Okay. What any reason?
Family. We'll put it that way. It was so hot. I forget that Springfield has trees and buildings and wind, and I think I saw more. Oh God, what are those things you see them in the Wild West? Little hay bale, not hay bales.
Dust bunny? No, not dust bunny.
Not that. We know what I'm talking about.
The thing you always see it go across.
Yeah. It's the only thing in movies to show you when something's been abandoned. And it was fine. It was all right. And I'm back. I'm sure. I don't know if anybody missed us. There's plenty of episodes to catch up on. If you do, but we are back, baby. We are back.
Absolutely, and we are back with a new album.
Yeah,
new album to talk about.
We did this last time. I talked a little bit about why I picked the album. So I want you to explain to the public why you picked this album.
Well, this in particular album, should we reveal it or should we?
I think you should kind of tease it a little bit.
Okay.
And then go just dive in head first.
Okay. Well, I chose this album mostly because I wanted to change up a different genre. That was one thing. And I also thought that perhaps having been in a car ride with you and listening to the variety of music that you listen to, I thought that this would be a better album than maybe their previous work, just because it's a little bit more accessible and just an easier listen. But upon going through the history and how it was made, like it was extremely insightful and ended up being like an absolute pleasure. I knew it was going to be already because of the songs that were in it, but I had no idea that like this was going to be like that big of a deal for me when I went through it again. So I was super excited to share it with you, and maybe you went through the deep dive as well, or at the very least we'll have a similar reaction to the music and what have you. So I chose this in particular band and this album for a very specific reason. And actually, I forgot that if we're just going to lead you on and have the tension.
The entire podcast is 45 minutes long, and we just don't say the name.
I think it's better for me to show you the album in my own way than how we usually do it. So give me just 1 second.
Okay. I don't know what's going on. What in the... Did you plan this? Oh, I get it. The whole bit's that they don't talk. Okay. Well, if you haven't gathered, it's Daft Punk. Tony picked... I'll speak for Tony now. He picked Random Access Memories. This album is 12 years old. Is it 12 years? I think it's 12 years old. It came out in 2013. Obviously, you can see Tony's doing a really good job. Where did you get that? In full transparency, folks, we have discussed incorporating props, maybe dressing like the artists in which we're covering.
This is episode 1 of it. This is the real official first episode. So
here's the thing. Now the podcast is just going to be me asking him where he got that thing.
Nebraska. I'm a big fan, and I'm also a cosplayer, and I like costuming, and I happen to make that costume for Halloween.
It's very accurate.
Thank
honestly.
you.
Looking at the album cover and then seeing you It
was pretty close, right?
It's pretty accurate. I mean, there can't be a lot of ventilation in that thing either.
No.
How did you even make that?
So it's 3D printed,
Oh, jeez.
and you can kind of see it on
There's
the inside.
no way that's good for your breathing. There's no way you're breathing.
It's actually not
clean
too
air.
bad.
God, there's so many chemicals in your lungs right now.
It's okay.
I mean, I've heard of microplastics, but that's a macroplastic. Oh man.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
a friend
That's
of mine and I wore some suits and then made the helmets, and we
Did you at least talk during this party?
did not.
God, you guys are the worst. Great costume, horrible personality. If you're gonna go to a party, you have to talk.
The thing is, the plan originally was to actually have the light up and lights and be able to talk through there, because there's a lot of LEDs that are able to do that. Unfortunately, that's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be.
It wasn't even a prank. I feel like I just got duped. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, no, it's. I mean, so when he messaged me and said this is what we were talking about, I was like, all right, this is the Pharrell album. And that's just because, I mean, Tony obviously will go into a lot of history, and we'll discuss, the things that people know for. But if you grew up in, I don't want to say the middle class, I don't want to say the Ozarks. I think if you just were alive in 2013, you know this as the Pharrell album, unless you are a fan of this genre. And we'll dive into what we mean by that. But yeah, no, I don't have any words, man.
Well, yeah, it's definitely. I mean, that year was definitely a good year for Pharrell, as he was just everywhere. And a large part of it was because of this song, and also his work with Robin Thicke for Blurred Lines. I think that was also that same period. So yeah, Pharrell was everywhere, and obviously this album making a huge impact, having won several Grammys.
I mean, this album had a chokehold of the Grammys.
Yeah, and beat out large albums at the time, including like Taylor Swift. Yeah, I mean, one would say that you didn't see it coming, but when Get Lucky comes out, you're just like, okay, yeah, that's the song of the year. That's it's undeniable. And then actually going through the album, you're just like, this is so different from what had been coming out during that time period, that it's just like, okay, yeah, this is a great album, and it deserves the accolade of album of the year.
And whenever I think Daft Punk, and keep in mind, I'm not into techno, I'm not into like the disco pop, I'm not into making helmets with my friends. Whenever I hear Daft Punk, I think of Tron. And I mean, they did a great job on the Tron Legacy soundtrack, and so that's kind of like, we've talked about like the Doctor Who thing. Like, you kind of just stick with whoever your first exposure was to the series.
Yeah. And
so, I never really listened to Daft Punk until I watched Tron. I was weirdly obsessed with that film. It's a great film. I always thought it was interesting that these two guys made this music, and to this day I still don't know what they look like. I could be talking to one of them right now. But it's just it was a good pick. It was a good pick. It did open up my eyes to, what's that? There's this old stereotype about techno music that if you say the word boots and cats over and over, you can make your own Daft Punk song. And so it kind of opened my eyes up to different, musical tastes, and, doing some research. Like I said, Tony will get into it a little deeper.
Sure.
It's very clear that they were trying to, I don't want to say mimic because they put their own spin on it, but it's very clear that they were trying to create a more modern version of some of the same music that older generations grew up on.
Absolutely. Daft Punk are huge fans of the music of the 70s and the 80s, especially, your disco to, pop, and obviously, some of the dance music. I mean, it's dance music is what it is, and ultimately, you know, it would have more labels known as like house or like kind of like a new disco. Because it was roughly once they got to the late 90s and they came out, you know, they were making a huge scene, and it wasn't until you know, they played I think it was Coachella, where America really got to see them and what they're all about, and really changed the game, and would further lead into electronic music and EDM and everything. And because that type of music didn't have the visual spectacle that Daft Punk had. They were the first ones to really bring in the lights and the, like, you know, the fanfare that type of music can you know, have, and it's experienced live. It's experienced, you know, for you to dance and for you to experience. And that was, again, kind of going back to why I chose this album compared to the previous ones, is because the previous ones are very, like, I don't know, this type of music isn't one that you, to me, isn't one that you just kind of listen to in your car or whatever. It's fine if you hear one, but like a full album of just, you know, a steady dance beat, like it fits well in a club, in an arena, or, you know, like where it's supposed to, but it's not really, you know, you're jamming it out to it, in my opinion. However, this album, I think, is the exception, where there's plenty for you to enjoy and appreciate as you go through the album.
I do wonder how much The Matrix played into that. 1999, it kind of set this futuristic utopia, and so I think a lot of people were doing like that whole. God, I remember there was a commercial with Matt Leinart when he was a quarterback at USC, and it was him like walking down a runway with flashing lights, and he was dressed like Neo for some reason. I mean, there was a weird like space techno phase.
It was definitely
I was 3, but I remember it.
During that time, I mean, 99, this is the cusp of Y2K. I mean, everything was about technology, all about what's to come in the next millennium. What are we going to experience in terms of computers and that type of technology? And of course, Y2K, you know, everyone thought that it was going to be the end of the world because computers were going to crash, and, you know, stock market stuff, and all of our computers would break, and, you know, ended up not doing that at all. And
one of our guys that works here was telling me that the reason that I don't know if this is backed by science. This is just him talking. One of his theories is that the reason that Y2K was an issue was because whenever they created not cameras, I'm staring at a camera. Whenever they created computers, the calendars couldn't be programmed anything higher than 99. And so that was why people thought that everything was going to shut down. You guys were silly.
Well, yeah. I mean, the idea was that, 99, you know, whatever the number, like, it needs to reset, and it resets to 0. So does that affect the banks? Does my account suddenly go from, you know, $50 to 0? Like, because it has to reset, you know, that was the question. Right. So yeah, that technology and the future of how computers and stuff was definitely in the minds of a lot of people, and were in the minds of these two Frenchmen, real names.
Go ahead.
Being French, it is Thomas Bangalter and Guy Manuel de Homem Christo.
We'll call Thomas and Guy.
Thomas and Guy Manuel, excuse me, which in their lore, they started off as a normal guitar, drum, like band, like that, a rock band, I suppose. And a critique of their music, some critic described them as daft, punky, and thrash. And they really liked that, those adjectives. And they're like, okay, we're going to change our name, call ourselves Daft Punk.
So what you're saying is whenever they make the movie about these two, they're going to be reading this review and they're going to be like, these guys are daft and punk.
Well,
I just, it's one of my biggest pet peeves about movies about like famous people is they'll say like, I'm not saying this is what happened. This is just an exaggerated example. But it'll be like a movie about Queen, and they'll be reading something, and somebody will be like, well, they say another one bites the dust. And then they're all like,
what?
That should be a song title. We don't have anything to go with it, but it's unique. I like that story. I'm just saying I hope they don't exploit it for any future movie.
I don't know any other way to show that, because I mean, that's what happened, and that's, and sure enough, movies will play it up to be even cornier. But the same for Led Zeppelin. I mean, they were critiqued and were saying that that their band, their music was as useless as a Led Zeppelin, and they're like, that's a great band name, let's do it.
Right. So owning the criticism.
Yeah, taking negativity and turning it into a positive, or just owning that. So anyway, in their lore, they say that in 1999, there was an accident while they were sampling an explosion, and they rebuilt themselves into robots. And that is how we know them primarily as the two robots.
How do we know that's what happened if they don't talk?
It's explained through the music. The music is how they speak to you. The whole premise of once they took on these personas was how does a robot understand human emotion? And it's a discovery of humans versus robots, not in a war way. I mean, there's some to it, but also just like how do you give a robot soul? And
they have soul.
Yeah, and that's a large part of the while listening to their music, and their end would ultimately lead to this album, where they are very much talking about themselves, but still using that persona of like, okay, we are known for having this robotic, electronic sound, but we're so bored with it, or we're so very similar to Supertramp, how they were kind of feeling misguided. And I guess also the Eagles, when we reviewed them, of just like, oh, we made it big, and then suddenly we do the next album and nobody likes it, and so now we're like, okay, well, we just lost a love, and I think Daft Punk was sort of feeling the same thing, so they were kind of like, okay, well, what do we do with our sound? And so they kind of went through the process of like explaining what's going on with their lives now and how they're going to progress with the music. So I think that leads well into just kind of talking about each track.
Yeah. Before we get started, for people at home that don't understand, Tony has access to all of the controls, and we have these little tiny cameras that unlock on motion, and I talk with my hands a lot, and so I'm wondering, Tony, can you lock my camera?
Yeah.
Because I've noticed when I look up at the screen, it will like autofocus and zoom in and out. I don't want people to get like motion sickness if they're actually watching this. I recommend you always listen to it, but
yeah.
I mean, I can try to. This help.
It should turn blue, right?
It's green now. We're good. Okay. We're good.
Okay.
All right, folks. And if I randomly do that, that's what happened. So, yeah, no, first track here, I did some reading on this, and I agree with some of the criticisms. And I say criticisms, it's just a critical review about how this first song is kind of like it's kind of like a whack upside the head of like, hey, we're not doing just house music. Like, this is going to be an actual, it's going to be a song. It's going to be a story. It's called Give Life Back to Music. And so I took some notes here, and some things I thought was interesting is that this album heavily includes Nile Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who don't know who Nile Rodgers is if you've heard La Freak by Chic, That's Nile Rodgers. He was one of the co-founders of that band. And also Paul Jackson Jr. He's done a lot of guitar work for Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Alexander O'Neill, Al Jarreau, and then for some people who don't listen to that kind of music, Chicago. So he's done some stuff with them. And so some of the notes I have in here is that it kind of sets the tone that this is going to be. I wrote funk, pop, light, techno, vibe music. And then, you know me, I wrote the lyrics are meh, but that is not what Daft Punk is known for.
Okay.
That's my opinion. I've never heard anybody be like, hey, Daft Punk, like creative lyrics. Like they really have a good commentary on what's going on in the world. Mm-hmm. But I don't listen to them a lot. So
Sure.
that might be my own ignorance.
No, I think it's what they say in it that is the point. They're not super poetic by any means. It's just whatever they're wanting to say, they're going to say, and it's, again, the personas are robots, so it's very, very, very straightforward of what they're trying to say. So in this case, and I want to just slightly back up to lead into what I'm trying to say here, this album is different in a very large way. If you're not familiar with the music in general, they are one of the pioneers of, like, sampling has always been, a large part of music nowadays, and taking from previous works and remixing it, sampling, and creating your own music out of it. In their previous albums, that's all they've done is, grab music from artists that they really like and grab little snippets and make music from small little snippets into a completely different thing. Now, when you listen to something like rap and things like that, sometimes they'll take a large portion, like a full 4 bars, and you recognize it and and Daft Punk will sort of do that for some songs, but they're more so known for just taking a note or a beat, one little hit, and then putting, Frankensteining a brand new, song out of that. With this in particular album, and trying to explore what they can do musically, they didn't want to do the same thing where, again, they love 70s and 80s music where they were just sampling from, previous works. They thought, well, why not sample humans? Why not sample the people that we're sampling from originally? So they brought people like Niles Rodgers, in to actually play for them. Now, you would think that what would they have them do is, play one of their classic songs, and that way they can record it from there. That is not the case. They went in and would just play a riff, a 4-bar series of notes, and then have their guest musician come in and just play over it for 30 minutes, straight 30 minutes of them just playing on one riff. And then that's it. That's all they need. So they're sampling literally from a live band or a live musician right then and there, and building a library for themselves that they personally own themselves. And that's what really makes this interesting, is that the title of the song being Give Life Back to Music is them kind of reevaluating who they are, what they do, and how they appreciate the love of sampling and how you can do it differently. And so there's a lyric in there that says, "Let the music of your life bring back life back to music." They were struggling with what their previous album, where they, the previous album being Human After All, kind of universally known as the weakest album, mainly because they decided to go full throttle electronic. And very, very minimalistic, very just straight beats, a lot of repetition, not a whole lot of song writing into it, and that kind of backfired on them. And they're, and again, they kind of lost the love of the public because of that. So, this is their chance of like, okay, well, let's go back to our roots, but let's do it in a way that hasn't been done before. And that's really essentially what you're seeing being built throughout this album.
I will say I know exactly what you're talking about when you say they're sampling specific notes or cadences. There's actually videos I've seen on social media of it'll be like 8 different bars across the screen, and they'll play the 8 different songs, and they'll show you the exact moments that they've taken from each song.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main one that I've seen is the one, I can't remember the name of it, but the music video is where the people in robot costumes, they'll just walk up and down the stairs.
Around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great concept. What do you want to do for this video? Walk
It's like
The
around.
Lord of the Rings of music videos. But no, I liked it. I like the incorporation. I know exactly what you're talking about because I mean, when you look at track 2, which is called "The Game of Love," I wrote in here. I said the lyrics are still meh, but I said it gives stank face vibes. And the reason why I feel that way is because it reminds me of there's this. I think I've talked. I don't know if I've talked about this before on this show, but definitely people who haven't told me to be quiet yet. There is an old wooden ship. No, there's a old genre of music called the Quiet Storm, and it was really personified or brought to light by Smokey Robinson, and it's kind of like that slower R&B. It's kind of got funk vibes, but it's not up tempo. And Patti LaBelle does it really well. What's her name? Oh gosh, it's Anita Baker. Really big into that. And so this song kind of took me back to that Quiet Storm era, which I mean it kind of encapsulates the entire sound they're going for in a nutshell. Is just that slower R&B, but with this modern twist. I mean, you won't hear it on Delilah, but like it's kind of the same genre to an extent. I freaking love Delilah.
I know you do. Second shout out to her again from the Vinyl Vault. Yeah, I mean this. You can listen to this whole album, which deals a lot with the concept of love, and you can do it as a relationship with another person. I interpret it as a love of music, and love of maybe the music business, or falling in and out of the love of music because you do it professionally, and so on and so forth. And to me, the game of love is them trying to play the game of love and then, doing well. And then suddenly, because there's a lyric where suddenly you leave, and that's how they're feeling. You also notice that for people who have listened to it, the voice that they use, a vocoder, it is very much a human, voice. They spent a lot of time choosing that in particular sound because they wanted it to make it seem like it was a robot trying to be human opposed to a human trying to be a robot. And as you go through the album, what's really interesting is that it becomes more and more human ultimately until we get to Pharrell later in the album. So let's go to the next song, Giorgio. What did you think of Giorgio?
Listen, I wrote. I said it's not on the rotation because I wrote, "Who wants to hear this guy go on and on over a funk beat? I need musicality." And then I wrote, "Oh, hey, there it is. Wait, am I back in Tron?" And then I wrote in parentheses, "Am I still to create the perfect system?"
Nice.
And if you've ever seen Tron, there's this really funny bit where it's like a flashback. And so, long story short, one of the characters creates this environment called Tron, and he's trying to create like the perfect system, like the perfect environment. And he hires this guy named Clue to basically run the show. And so Clue gets out of control, and he yells across Tron land. He's like, "Hey, Flynn, am I still to create the perfect system?" And the funniest part of that whole film is instead of Jeff Bridges just saying, "Yeah," he just goes, yeah. And I it gets me every time, like the voice crack, the accent. It just anyway, this song reminded me of Tron a little bit.
Yeah.
I did like the breakdown. It kind of felt like if we want to look at this on a metaphorical stage, this was clearly to me a song about a band who is trying to do this new sound, but is still somewhat being drawn back to their old ways. I wrote definitely a nostalgia homage. And so it definitely has a lot of that stereotypical Daft Punk sound, while also trying to branch out to an extent. And I read some history on this Giorgio guy, and they said he's the father of disco. I've never heard of him. And maybe I'm not big into disco. Maybe I like the nightlife and I like the boogie, but I don't disco round.
Yeah.
You don't get that reference. It's fine.
Sorry.
That's fine. Somebody will.
Giorgio Moroder, he was definitely a large influence for Daft Punk, especially with their electronic sound. And what they actually had him do, he had been wanting to perform with the robots, and they called him, brought him into the studio, and thought that they were going to make a song together. They did, but they didn't, not the way that he thought. They had him sit down and just record his life story for like 2-3 hours.
He had to have been so confused.
Indeed, he was, and that's a common thing when you listen to interviews with people who worked with Daft Punk on this album, is that they were used in such a strange way that they had no idea what the sound was going to be like. So, it was very much a surprise whenever they were done, a year or so afterwards.
Do you think he got done telling this 3-hour story and they were like, all right, thanks for coming? And he's like, what?
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened. So you were right on the nose saying that it reminded you of Tron. This album was right after Tron. That was their first time scoring anything. Scoring a content that was already out there.
And it's a great album.
Yeah,
it's that album is 15 years old, and some of those songs are still in my rotation.
Nice. So they had practice with learning how to score. They decided that, one of their favorite humans, they wanted to see if they could score the life story of Giorgio Moroder. And so as he's talking about each era that he's in, they would do things like they would change his microphone to the era that he's talking about, and you would use a microphone that was popular during that era. And as he talks about Donna Summers or, which he produced and stuff, they would take elements from what he's talking about and putting it in there, literally scoring his life. And ultimately, he says, by the end, once you free your mind about a concept of harmony and of music being correct, you can do whatever you want. And I think that's a large part of like them realizing that, their mentor is saying, don't worry about, what restrictions and, what's expected of you. Like, let it go and just live in the time that you're there, and you'll ultimately be free to do whatever you want. And, so this is kind of a reflection of like, okay, well, what do we want? What do we want to do? Which I think is perfect for the next song, Within, where they're talking about what's inside them. Who are they? What was your thought?
Yeah, I didn't like this one. I wrote easily a contender for the least favorite, and then I said at least Giorgio had a breakdown and good vibes. This one made me sad.
Yeah, it's definitely not a normal. I mean, when you think Daft Punk, you're probably not thinking of Within.
Sad.
You'll notice that the robot voice has become a lot more human, a lot more emotional about what's going on there. Again, I think it's a very intentional thing of becoming more and more human. A robot truly trying to find itself. And yeah, not every song that I'm saying, like listening to this, is a song that I put on a playlist.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I mean, once I kind of realized that this album was most likely a concept album, and a very specific reason why they made it this way, it changed my perspective of it. But I mean, I generally have. And on my first go arounds, skipping Giorgio, skipping Within, and kind of leading myself more towards the next few songs that are coming up. So yeah,
yeah. The next song, I believe it's the singer of who is it? What band is this? This guy, this Julian Casablancas. Hell,
good research.
He's a singer of a band, and I wrote that I enjoyed this song, but it probably doesn't make the rotation unless I'm listening to the album front and back, and that's just how I feel about it. There's we'll get to him a little down the road here. There's 2 or 3 here where I'm like, hey, good job, not for me. So
yeah. Yeah, to me, I mean, it sounds like the aftermath of a breakup, and just trying to just kind of get some closure. And again, that makes sense for a breakup with a relationship, with a person, or maybe with your in particular genre of music. And I think that's why it leads well into the next big, a larger song, but the first time that you actually hear a full-on non-robotic person taking the lead, that person being Pharrell, for the 6th track, Lose Yourself to Dance. What'd you think of that?
2 notes. I wrote The Stank Face is back, and early contender for the best on the album. And so here's the thing. The time that I grew up in, the area I grew up in, the society I grew up in, the friend circle I grew up in, I always grew up thinking that Pharrell was like a celebrity, but that this was like his comeback. I don't know how true that is now, especially after watching the Pharrell Lego movie. Not an endorsement. Great film.
Really?
It's just I see that he had a lot on this. I like I said, I always grew up thinking that like Daft Punk resurrected Pharrell's career, and I don't think that's the case. But that being said, I mean, he's been a great addition to the album.
Yeah, I think at the time he's a songwriter. He's helped several artists make their hit songs.
Gwen Stefani.
Justin Timberlake. I just saw a video of him helping out with a verse of Justin's songs and what have you. I think he's always been one of those guys that has been a studio musician and really solid at making the music, but has written music for other people. And one of the biggest things that he really appreciated about this album was that when he recorded for Daft Punk, he was like, I'm excited to hear, who's going to sing it and how it's going to sound. And they're like, no, it's going to be you. And, he didn't believe them until years later after they finally released the album. And there's a video of him listening to, the songs for the first time. And he's like, it's me. And they're like, yeah, we told you, we wanted you. And, it's you.
Daft Punk is not a liar.
Yeah, so I also agree. And actually, I'm gonna say this is my favorite song on really? The album. Yeah.
Okay. Mine's a little further down.
Okay.
I think I feel like which one I'm gonna like the most.
Giorgio Part 2.
No.
Okay, so the next song being Touch. Oh, Touch.
Yeah, 8 minutes is a long time.
Sure is.
For a techno song, even if it's pop. That's just 8 minutes, man. That's longer than Stairway to Heaven. And at least Stairway to Heaven's like in phases.
Yeah.
I wrote, this intro is an intro. I must have wrote that because I didn't like it. Usually, whenever somebody says like, oh, that was a thing, it's usually not a compliment. So pro advice. If you're ever watching a movie with somebody and you're like, hey, how was that? And they go, well, it was a movie. Not a good thing. You're not watching that one again. I said I love the use of the piano and the trumpet playing back and forth. Almost, they're like communicating before it officially broke down. And by breakdown, I mean like the breakdown of the song, not like it was a car that broke down.
Okay. So Guy Manuel says that to him, this is a song that this is the centerpiece, and obviously it's right in the middle, but this is what everything's based around. This was also their most like technically difficult song to make because it has 250 elements of sampling that they put into it. And I mean, you could tell, obviously, you said, it has the intro, which sounds like a robot rebooting to me.
That might be why I didn't like it, because it's not actually music.
Right, yeah. It's definitely, when people do skits or, stuff like that, it's filler. For them, they're telling a story as if like it's a cinematic, event that's happening there. And then that's, I think, what it's supposed to be. The key lyrics in here is if love is the answer, you're home. I think it's, again, just a realization that, having that freedom of not keeping yourself in a certain mold and just letting go and losing yourself to dance, that you're able to find love, you're able to find home. And so it, to me, I could see how this like makes sense, that maybe this is an early song. They're like, all right, let's write music that leads to this and then music that happens after this, which is a very large part of what they're all about, is that they sample old music, but they present it like they're from the future. It's very much still, that theme of their entire of the entire group, really.
It's kind of like those like old movies where aliens basically craft what they think human nature is by accidentally watching a season of the Three Stooges.
Right.
It's like we're from the future and the only thing we have to go off of is like Billy Ocean, and it's like that's not a bad thing to go off of. Mm-hmm. But yeah, 8 minutes is just too long. I'm sorry. That's just too long. At minute 6, are you not all just looking at each other in your little helmets and they're like, are we gonna cut this off or what? But no, I'd like to think that the reason your album the song slowly fades out, I think that was the producers telling them like, hey, 8 minutes is enough.
Guys, come on.
I could rant about this for 8 minutes. Would you like that? Would you like me to rant? No. All right, what we got next?
Well, we've got a song that no one's ever heard before.
No one's ever heard of.
The song is Get Lucky.
Yeah, and so when I did my research about this, there was an interview from Pharrell. Whenever you hear the term get lucky, there is always something that you kind of assume by that phrase. Apparently, that's not what this song is about. Apparently, when he's referring to getting lucky, he's referring to like meeting somebody or like finding somebody with like the same vibe as you. Mm-hmm. Boy, I was way off. Samsonite.
Yeah, he mentions that it's more about having a connection, a strong connection with someone or something. But obviously, yeah, the phrase of getting lucky has a very in particular
more secular meaning.
Yeah, and obviously it's open enough for you to interpret how you want to. For him, it was very much that. I think again, it's the robots saying that. Saying how like, do you notice how it's very similar to Lose Yourself to Dance? It feels like they kind of went back to that same, like if they went back in time and listened to Lose Yourself to Dance, they're like, oh man, this is what I grew up on. This is what I love, and then they're like, okay, I am willing to just give up everything and let's just go back and just really, really take it in, and you'll notice that the robots are now kind of back in. You hear the come on, and everything like
the bridge.
Yeah, where they're there and they're doing their own interpretation. They're playing with the band. I think that's exactly what the case is that they found home. With this sound. For the musicians, it's them like, we're going to do pop. We like pop. We like, collaborating with Pharrell. We like playing with all these people, like it doesn't have to be just, straight on, doing just that,
Couple notes I wrote classic, unfortunately almost overplayed. And then also, if I remember correctly, the music video is almost like a Rick James ripoff.
Yeah.
So enjoy that. I love that. I know that. So I hate to be that guy. I think we're almost coming up on an hour now, and I'm not going to speed run through these, but the one that I want to talk about the most.
Sure.
Yes, the one that I want to talk about the most is "Fragments of Time."
Okay.
And I wrote, easily the best song on this album, but it answers the question of what if we had Yacht Rock at home? And I really enjoyed it. It's like they did their best impression of what they thought like a Michael McDonald song would sound like. I just wish that the guy who sang it had more of a Yacht Rock tone to his voice. Mm-hmm. It almost felt, I don't want to say it feels cheap, but like the music is so good and it flows so well, and you kind of dance while you're sitting, and then this guy comes in and sings, and you're like, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. I just wish you had a different voice.
Sure.
I actually found myself singing it as if I was Michael to see if it would make it better. But that's the best song on the album for me.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, Fragments of Time. That is co-produced by a guy named Todd Edwards.
Yeah, he's the guy that sang it.
Yeah, that is a song about his experience playing with Daft Punk and how, he was heavily influenced by them and, was honored to be able to produce with them. And he's just talking about the experience of being there with them and them doing their thing and him getting to jam with them and make a song with them. It's
in the rotation. It's a good one.
Yeah. And funny you talk about Michael McDonald, just to backtrack just for 1 second and we can kind of go by it, Beyond the ninth track has it sounds like I keep forgetting by Michael McDonald, that kind of a groove that it feels like they probably sampled from that, but
a McDonaldian pop.
Yeah, exactly.
Trademark.
So as they kind of go through the Beyond and Motherboard, you start to hear both human and robot sounds as if they're like, okay, yeah, we figured it out. We can do both, and we're perfectly happy with it. And I think maybe that's again where the 12th song they're doing it right.
I did like that one
with Panda Bear. What do you know about Panda Bear?
I know that they're an endangered species, I think.
Yeah.
Most famous for its appearance in Anchorman. It's a good song. I like it. It reminds me of, it's kind of similar to that one, the Giorgio one, where it's that traditional Daft Punk, where it's like the repetitive kind of loop, and then you add more to it. And so I like those two back to back is a really good back to back for me. But yeah, I think I tried to find this on vinyl. I was going to buy it on vinyl, but you can't buy it anywhere for less than $50. And listen, guys, I'm not Mr. Moneybags. I get all my records from thrift stores and yard sales. So if you have a yard sale coming up where you have a copy of Random Access Memories on vinyl, let me know.
Yeah, that'd be really cool to actually have. There's I think a 10th anniversary version, like a deluxe version, where you get a couple extra songs, and I think they also kind of break down. There's a little bit of behind the scenes stuff that's kind of added to it, but that would be cool for you to get. All I wanted to say with this was also just more of the reiteration of the process of Daft Punk realizing that there's a lyric that Panda Bear says, if you lose your way tonight, that's how you know the music's right. Lose yourself to the dance, to the music. You know you're doing it right, despite if it's a different genre or whatever.
It's very easy to lose yourself in Daft Punk, and I don't mean that as a criticism. I mean, their music is enjoyable to listen to.
It sets a mood, it sets a vibe, and you can definitely just. It can take you on an adventure if you really pay attention to it, or if you're spacing out. I think that's a part of it as well. Speaking of space, we go to the final song on track 13, Contact. I imagine you didn't like this because perhaps you didn't really think it was a song.
Let me pull up my notes here because you're right.
Yeah.
I wrote Contact, didn't make it through the entire song, but the beginning felt like it was going to be good. I'll defer to tone.
Fair enough.
So,
it is
6.5 minutes, folks.
It is.
Steely Dan made long songs. So.
Again, knowing that this is a concept album, and ultimately just within a couple of years after the release of this album, Daft Punk called it quits. They split up, and I think that they always knew that they were going to be done with the robot personas, or maybe with their relationship with each other, or just know that this is the time that they hang it up. That they wrote this album just to say goodbye and kind of move on to other stuff. That they realized that we got to go. So how do we? Knowing fully well that they've taken the personification of these characters, these robots, how do we give them a proper farewell in music form or in audio form? I think this is exactly what it is. You hear, what seemingly a countdown, the violent space, liftoff, and hearing the Apollo 17 recording that's back in 1972, where they pictured or saw something out in space with lights, and they don't know what it is. And
implying it's Daft Punk.
Exactly. And they're like, Daft Punk is now, they're out in space, off to a new adventure. They've moved on from Earth.
They're on to a new adventure called No New Music.
No new music. And there's actually a bonus track on the Japanese version of the album called Horizon, where it's a lot more chill and seemingly like they're chilling out in space. They're good. They're just trying to find a new home or a new horizon to look for. This album to me, again, just encapsulates musicians trying to rediscover a love of something that they, were kind of thinking that maybe they'd hang it up, and they rediscovered their love, knowing that it just needed to change and didn't need the chains and the shackles that they kind of placed themselves in, of whether or not Daft Punk will always be known as the electronic band, or will they be known for this in particular album for collaborating with a bunch of people and trying pop music and what have you.
I want to talk about one last thing. Let's pull that album cover up.
Sure.
You notice anything about that looks familiar to you, Tone? Specifically, like 1986, maybe 1984.
Oh, well, it looks like a homage to something familiar.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
What do you think it is?
Well, it's obviously Thriller.
I mean, it has the same font, right?
The same font, swigglies, and actually, we don't have a picture of the back, but if you look at the back, it's the same concept. All the tracks are like centered in the middle. It's that same font, and it just really encapsulates that homage to the 70s and 80s. I'm also not a genius, so I don't think RAM actually means random access memories, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. It's RAM is for your computer. It's temporary. It's just computer jargon, but when you double click on something, how fast does it show up? That has RAM. And so the more RAM you have, the faster it comes up. It's just basically temporary memory that pops up and makes your machine do its thing. And yeah, more or less, that's its purpose.
This machine did do its thing. I like this album. We can go back to us now. I mean, we're the main event. People want to see us. And I like this album. It's in the rotation. It's my pick next week, right?
Yes, it is.
Let's get a 2-shot up here. I want people to see my face. Thank you. Ugh.
Too much?
So we decided we used to do these like little teasers on the day before we post it, but we thought, what a better way to get people excited by kind of teasing it for the future. Now, the album that I'm gonna pick.
By the way, are you speaking in riddles? Should we be listening to every single word you're saying right now?
Not yet.
Okay.
The album that I'm picking, this person put out several albums, but they're really only known for. I wouldn't say they're only known for. One of their albums is like infinitely more famous than the others. But next week we're gonna be talking about Michael McDonald, and it's about time we talk about the GOAT himself, Michael freaking McDonald. Burn it down.
Can we get some fries with that?
No. No. So we'll get started on that. Tony, I know you don't listen to a lot of yacht rock, so I hope you're ready for some smooth soul, R&B, yacht rock, the whole kit and caboodle.
I'm excited for it. I know some of the singles, but have definitely never listened to a full album of especially Michael McDonald. So.
I'd like the record to reflect he has multiple solo albums. I'm just picking one of them, but the hint is that it will be a Michael McDonald album.
Gotcha. Which one will it be?
I'm not telling you.
Okay.
But that's just if people are listening to this at home, they're like, shoot.
Well,
I really got to hear their hot takes on Michael McDonald. Well, now you know to tune in.
Gee, Parker, how are we going to find out then?
We'll tell them when we start the episode. Did I miss the morning meeting? Did I miss the memo?
Oh, so you're saying next week we'll find out.
I'm saying I will give as much as I will release at the moment.
Yeah.
Is that it is a Michael McDonald album.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, looking forward to it. Want to thank you all for tuning in. We should be back with the new album there. If you have any comments about what we're doing, and give us your favorite. What's your take on Daft Punk? If there's any other music that you want us to react to and look into, we can certainly do that.
And if you're not big into techno, I mean, we had the same thing. I wasn't big into Metallica. I gave it a shot. Some people I know weren't big into Tupac. They gave it a shot. If you're not big into techno, that's fine. This album is not a bunch of data servers booting up. This album definitely has, I don't want to judge, but it had a lot more music than I thought was going to actually be on this thing. So give it a shot. If you don't like it, skip the track.
I chose it very specifically for Parker to enjoy, so I can only imagine that you all at home would also enjoy it. So if you haven't listened to it, I mean, I still think it's worth one listen.
Yes. All right. Well, Tone, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I need to build the other helmet. I only have the one.
Yeah.
So if you want to be my Guy Manuel, perhaps we could do that.
I'll be your guide to your Thomas.
It's Thomas.
But all right, well, that's gonna do it for us on this week at the Vinyl Vault. We'll see you next time.
All right, thanks.